How would a vampire movie work within the digital age? That was the question that led to the inception of Love in Vain. Originally a feature script, I took the character of Evelyn the vampire and envisioned what a typical night for her would be, but there needed to be some conflict in order to give the story some meat. What if Evelyn's victim became a potential love interest over the course of the story? There was my hook. I took those elements and wrote the script. I started the pre-production process by making mood boards for the department heads to see. As well as the initial script, I wrote character biographies to give the actors more context. Lauren, the production designer, took those elements as a starting point and designed Evelyn like she hadn't caught up with fashion trends since the 90s. The first location for us to scout was the restaurant. Despite some venues fitting the script, they proved challenging in terms of cost and space. However, the Grand Central worked for us. It fit the mood boards, fit the script, there were power outlets for studio lighting, and it worked well within our schedule. But the bathrooms weren't big enough for the scenes required in the script, so we had to use the toilets at Screen and Film School instead. Our producer Johanna helped coordinate all of our ideas to ensure that they were logistically possible, safe to accomplish, and within our budget. She contacted all of our locations, arranged location scouts, scheduled for shooting, obtained street licenses, and budgeted each department accordingly. Towards the start of pre-production, me and Hayden, the cinematographer, sat down and discussed key shot ideas for the film. I would sometimes do rough sketches of certain shot ideas I had, with notes for where I'd like colour contrast. We then began the test shoot process, starting with the bedroom scene.
There has to be a hot shoe mouth for that. There has to be.
Yeah, you would.
Richard's looking. He's on the look now.
So with the bedroom setup locked down, we started to figure out how the restaurant scenes were going to look. Lauren expanded her designs from my initial mood boards in much greater detail, with props like custom designed menus, and costumes that matched up well with the established colour palette. For the lighting, Hayden felt that the best way of getting the look I wanted would be through using overhead light to emulate the top lighting found in many restaurants. Hayden and our gaffer James initially tried a Kino flow on a C-stand to get the restaurant look. Ultimately, James decided to switch up to the Gemini light. This was because it was a quicker setup, had a similar light output, and gave Hayden more control over the colour temperature. There are two key moments of connection in the film, when Josh connects with Evelyn over the painting and just after Josh's Russian Blue monologue. I felt like I needed to use a visual device in order to enhance their relationship. I looked at the close-up techniques used by director Jonathan Demme to do this. Demme's style of close-up has the actor centre frame staring at the barrel of the lens, giving a more intimate feel. Meanwhile, Lauren had been experimenting with ideas for the vampire bite effect. We tested it under lighting and it looked really good. She also made custom teeth for Evelyn out of fake nails and dental adhesive. Me and Hayden shot listed together. Our sensibilities are very similar, which resulted in a visual style that's a fusion of both of our ideas. I only storyboarded key shots or sequences where I felt there were points that needed to be hit. An example of this is the introduction at the restaurant. We decided to shoot the film on the Blackmagic Pocket 4K. This was because of the smaller form factor of the camera, which would help us during some of the more claustrophobic scenes in the film. But we needed to see how this would work on a gimbal, so Hayden tested it on the Ronin S. It ended up proving too top heavy for the gimbal. Upon testing it on the larger Ronin, we found that the camera was too light. It was important for us to have fluid camera work to give dimensionality to the world that we were creating, so we had to find a different approach. We arranged another test shoot, asked Hayden to bring his GH5 down to test that instead, due to its lighter weight. We tried the shot again, it was much smoother and fluid. I felt confident in the movement, so we decided to use the GH5 for all the gimbal shots. We already had Elle Hope locked down as Evelyn. This left us the challenge of finding someone to play Josh. It was crucial to the story to really buy the connection between the two of them. Performance amounts to a big part of that. I approached Sam Bates, who we'd worked with before on The Perfect Human, to do a chemistry read.
You know, it's sad. The painting that is, and it's the notion of being intimate with someone and having to conceal your true self. It's kind of heartbreaking, do you think?
It's an interesting theory.
I felt that this was going to work. Sam was likeable enough that I felt an audience would buy Evelyn's attraction to him, but still had an undercurrent of pretentiousness that would help support the film's ending. The Russian Blue monologue in the script needed more life in order for it to land better though. This became evident in the first take that we did.
So, like, okay. I'll give you this recent example. Last week, this guy comes in, bald guy, built like a brick shit house. One arm's like the size of me. Anyway, he comes in to get his cat neutered.
Right.
Russian blue, cute little thing.
Yeah.
And he comes up to me, he's towering over. I thought him and little meow mix, that was it, my days were numbered. There and then, I was going to be by it. And he says to me in the deepest, huskiest voices, "So, before he goes in, could you put him in a cattery for just one final, How the fuck do you respond to that, without saying, "Oh, sorry sir, we don't provide that service, these days."
As we worked our way through the takes, I encouraged Sam to add his own embellishments to the monologue to give it more life. At take 4, he added a comment at the end, making a joke about not running a cat brothel operation. I thought this added a punchline that the monologue needed, and I bought Evelyn's reaction.
Right, so this one guy comes in, bald guy, built like a brick shit house, he's fucking huge.
Yeah.
And he comes in to get his cat neutered, Russian blue, cute little thing.
Yeah.
And he comes towards me, he's towering over, and I'm thinking, this is it, say your prayers, kid, because him and Meow Mix here are going to snuff your lights now. And he says to me in the deepest, huskiest voice, he says, could you possibly put him into a cattery with a female, just so we could have, one last final, What the fuck do you even say to that? Sorry, sir, we don't operate the brothel operation here much these days. Bizarre.
I worked some of Sam's improvisation into the shooting script to ensure that this carried through into the final film. Filming in the men's bathroom proved to be challenging. The first issue was skylights that needed to be covered over. James did this by placing 2 pieces of polyboard on C-stands. This caused me issues because it would have really restricted the blocking of the actors, so I asked if there was an alternative. In the end, James managed to tape the polyboard across the skylights, giving me the space that I needed. Once James got the light in, we realised that it'd have to be moved depending on which side of the room that we were shooting. This meant, to save time on the day, I'd have to pick my coverage very carefully. Lauren saw some bar and restaurant posters for the bathroom to make them more cohesive with the Grand Central's look. The first shot that we had scheduled on the shot list was the restaurant gimbal shot. The gimbal we were provided with on the day was faulty and wouldn't balance properly, so we had to send someone off to get a replacement. If we'd waited, we would have quickly fallen behind schedule, so we shot around it, opting to get the shots with the Black Magic on a tripod first. This helped us keep on track. Our first AD, Michael, kept us moving, ensuring that we all kept to the agreed time and schedule for each day. He was there to answer any questions when I was needed, always keeping the energy up on the set. Johanna made sure everything was running smoothly, addressing any budgetary concerns, and assisting with transportation as Sam also helped us move the kit with his van. Every morning I would take the actors downstairs into the bar, away from the crew, and we'd run through the scenes. We'd rehearse them, but it was more of an open analysis of the aims and objectives of the characters. I had an annotated script at hand to springboard ideas. I would start by stating my intent, and then I would let the actors feed back to me. By the end of the meeting, we'd have our approach locked to shoot. This proved useful because we had a limited number of takes to get it right, due to the short shooting schedule. Unfortunately, we ended up 4 shots behind due to the technical hiccup at the start of the day.
What are you, a vampire or something?
We caught up with our schedule. This was due to a lack of technical issues. We were out of the Grand Central by 4 o'clock, travelling to El Campo Lounge for a 6 o'clock evening shoot. During the break, Hayden presented the idea of using red lighting on the street, taking inspiration from Taxi Driver. In the scene Hayden referenced, Travis Bickle expresses conflict over the bad ideas in his head. This visual reference correlated well with Evelyn's own internal conflict. I let Hayden and James proceed with this setup. We kept to the shot list using that lighting style in the scene. We started by filming in the women's toilets at film school. James came up with the idea of placing small LED lights in Tupperware containers under the toilets and sinks as practicals. It broke the lighting of the scene up, giving it colour contrast, which created a more dynamic image. Myself and Hayden liked it for those reasons, so we went with it. The first shot of the sequence was going to be looking down above the cubicle. We thought this would be achievable due to the space above the cubicle, however it would have involved Hayden holding the camera vertically on the tripod, while standing on a stepladder. This obviously would have been dangerous, so I decided on a new angle shooting outside the cubicle pan down, but still got a similar effect to what I wanted. At the Grand Central, it was a rush to get through the remaining scenes. There was a pressure on all departments to get it done because it was our last day at the location. We completed it, at the expense of cutting a couple of shots. We started with the fight scene in the men's toilet at film school. It took longer to rehearse because of the physicality of the scene, with Elle attacking Joe. We wanted to secure the movement as safety of the actors was vital. Me and Hayden originally had a more measured shooting style in mind, but he suggested going handheld instead to save time. I agreed, and it ended up working in our favour. It gave the scene a frantic energy that may have been missed if we'd shot it traditionally. The film was a labour of love for everybody involved. Everyone went above and beyond their roles, resulting in a film that we're all incredibly proud of. We'd like to thank our supporters on Indiegogo, who helped support the project, as well as everyone who took the time to check it out. And if you still haven't seen Love in Vain, check it out in the description below. See ya!